Oh, we're live. Hello, everybody. Today is January 19th. It's a Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. Today we're talking about being scammed by AI. Have you been scammed by AI? Are you one of those people? No, which is interesting topic.
And just to jump in, you are listening or watching the Daily AI Show.
This is what happens when Brian's not here. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not as practiced as Brian in doing the intro, so my apologies. But I did get the date right because it's on the top of my computer. I can just look at it. All right, so it is January 19th. You're listening to the Daily AI Show live on all of our channels. And if you're listening to us afterwards on podcasts, in other words, thank you for that. Today we're talking about scamming specifically that is using AI services. And as I put in my subject line of my of the live for the LinkedIn, the impending doom of the proliferation of this is coming. And the nefarious agents out there, I'm not going to name any countries, but you know who you are, Russia. They've been known for their hacking, and their even China and other parts of India as well for reaching out and unsuspecting grandmas and saying, give me money or we'll help your computer. I mean, that's an old method. That's an old kind of method to steal money. And goodness gracious, with AI, you can be so much more creative. And I want to plug another podcast that all three of us pretty much listen to. It's This Day in AI. It's two Australian brothers, and they're amazing at this. But they created a bot. They've been working on it and making it better to try to scam their mom for out of money. And they basically, synthesize one of the brothers' voices and say, "Hey, mom," it does a real call, and it's all AI generated. So the responses are generated by AI, but you give it a task, I need you to get $2,000 out of this woman or my mom. I don't tell her what it's for or whatever. So I think that's a friendly and fun example of brothers doing it to their mother. But the fact of the matter is it's being done now, probably. I haven't gotten any personally, but what do y'all think? Have you been a subject to an AI scammer?
Personally, I have not been a subject to AI scammers, but there are news stories, right? So there was like a council person, maybe in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, I don't have the story on the top of my head, but like it's happening to people who are in the public eye, but like town level public eye, and same thing, like he supposedly got a call from a child who had been in an accident and needed bail money or something, and this person called their partner first. And their partner was like, "I'm pretty sure I may be making up some of these details. The general idea is correct." The partner was like, "I think I just spoke with her." So they called her at work, and she was like, "No, I'm good." Right? But in the same way that, like, we've talked about this for video and deep fakes, audio, like, you can see that something that you've read isn't true. If someone tells you something that you've read isn't true, like, your brain can go, "Okay, that was not real." But when you see a deep fake video or you hear a deep fake voice, your brain still has that. Like, for me, my brain still has that as true. And so that's a much harder thing. It isn't that, like, okay, you don't know, like, obviously your kid is okay, but you still have that, like,
that's a great
yeah.
That's a great point, Beth. And let's do a parallel to that. Let's do the Nigerian prince, right? When you're reading that, when it first started coming out, maybe people fell for that, but you read it, it's like, wow, there's errors, there's typos, the English is weird. But with LLMs, it's perfect. It's literally perfect English. And so, and then the deep fake, I mean, videos are still not a little bit like we watched one of our co-hosts do more videos with Hey Jen, and it's getting more believable, but he doesn't blink and he doesn't move as much, and his facial expressions kind of stay plain. But an audio of him would not, undistinguishable from himself. And so that is super scary. So you got somebody in Nigeria or Russia or China doing a deepfake audio using an LLM that's got perfect English and perfect intonation and is you could, like you said, you could read and decipher that that's AI, or sorry, that's scammed. But now even an AI generated email is going to be harder to. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, I think you make a really good point on focusing on or using an example that has existed for years.
Mm-hmm.
None of the things that we've seen so far are new in the sense of the attempt, right? The scam has always been try to get money or convince you of X, Y, or Z. This is all under social engineering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're reading an email, you're getting a phone call, or you're watching a video or anything like that. What the key point here is now with generative AI and LLMs is that it's all very easy, very quick, and very convincing, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just been a huge jump in the credibility of whatever they're trying to pull on you. Whether that's the phone call to the parents about their child and needing money, or the brothers trying to convince their mother, or reading about the emails that are perfectly that read perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it requires on our side is we have to adapt, like when we all became accustomed to emails from the Nigerian prince.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So when all of that stuff came out, what the biggest thing to combat it was awareness. So letting everyone know, hey, these are the kinds of things that are coming out. I remember on the nightly news, people they would do stories over and over, like at least a couple of times a year, where they were talking about, oh, the elderly are being targeted by this kind of phone scam. Whether it be about like medication, or they're getting snail mail. And convincing people to like sign up for fake credit cards and things like that.
Wow.
I think this is just that next level.
So I want 2 points on there. So number one, the whole Nigerian prince email scam that went over for many years, right? The new version of that, of course, is, I wouldn't necessarily call it scams, but it's the sales emails, right? So I would like to formally say on January 9th or January 2024, I'm going to be like Egon from the Ghostbusters. If anybody remember that, he said, it was a great line from the 1980s movie. He says, print is dead. And he's like a geek and a nerd, I'm going to say email is dead. And in a sense that it's a medium of communication that I don't trust anymore. So much junk, so many people reaching out. Hey, Robert, scan my LinkedIn page and try to be my best friend. And that's a form of scamming that I'm just getting tired of. But just to segue back out of that, back to the scammers, I'm kind of a nerd. I like to watch YouTube videos of people scamming the scammers. So I'll go through a whole hour of watching these team of people find out the office, the building in India that has like 50 people. All their job is to scam Americans. It's so frustrating that these people, that's what they do for a living, right? And so in my head, I'm thinking, they've been attacking the attacker and reverse engineering then they take over the computer, and I'm the Microsoft guy fixing your computer and whatnot, and they end up putting their computer on hostage and demanding money sometimes, or sometimes they just pretend like they're Microsoft and say, I need you to go to the store and buy a gift card and spend $200, and that's how which anybody who falls for that should be they're pretty stupid. It's a Darwin Award. But all that to say, those people in that building, first off, they won't need 50 of them. Second off, if they're really listening, not to us, hopefully, but to what's going on in language models, they've already developed this, and they are hard pressed, and they're developing something extremely sophisticated, very cheap, very effective, and I guarantee they're making tons of money right now. So that's what's scary to me.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I touch on in the everything every parent needs to know, what every parent needs to know right now. about the capabilities of AI, because this could be like big high level scams, but it could also be really, really low level scams. So one thing right now, look at your bank, look at your cable subscription. Do you have something set that says my voice is my password? If you do, change that. Change that today. Go ahead and take that off, because that is not secure in any way. The other thing is that these can be like small things. Do you have a process in your business for if there's a deep fake audio or video of your CEO or of your president, or right, of your board person? What's going to need to happen is that the people who are the victims of this are likely to need to be the people who are educating the public on this, right? We are trying, and we are definitely, like, there's more information coming out all the time, and there are people who agree, like, we totally need to educate the public on this. But in this interim place where most people will fall for it, it's gonna need to be something that you educate people on, and it's a really good idea to have thought of that before you are the victim of this, right?
Well, truly, and you're actually bringing in a whole other topic, which is deep fakes, which plays into the scamming. It actually scamming at you actually went two different ways. You went minimal skimming, like little low level, and then like high level, like full blown avatar of you being used to convince an audience. I mean, I know a lot of people in the entertainment industry have been subject to that because they're easy targets to kind of manipulate their audience base by creating a deep fake and getting whatever. But CEO of a company is a really good point. Like, your boss's boss, and they decide to do something that, I don't know, I can't think like a criminal, but I think there's a way to do that. Jyunmi, what do you think about that trend, the kind of combination of scamming using a deep fake?
So deep fakes, I think, will be a particular issue. I mean, we have to worry about, like you said, on the macro scale, deep fakes alone just provide misinformation, right? So there's a whole mess of things at that level. Within a company, though, deep fakes, cloning, all of those kinds of AI driven techniques are particularly
effective.
Yeah, because in most companies there's a direct sense of hierarchy, right? If your boss tells you to do X, Y, or Z, you just do it. There's an assumed authority there. There's an assumed credibility, and when you mentioned the buy gift cards things, that's completely plausible and highly effective within a company, right? If you tell your subordinate, hey, we're going to run a media campaign where we're handing out gift cards at this next event that we're doing, I need you to go buy 200.
Wow.
What are you going to do?
I'm not a criminal, because I would have just stolen that idea.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that, and I've been tangentially connected to a case like that. So luckily nothing bad happened, but it just shows that within those smaller systems, like Beth was pointing out, those smaller moves tend to be more effective. So you got to be very careful about those kinds of things. Do confirmations, have your SOP, very established that if a request for money is spent, you need authorization from X, Y, and Z to go ahead and do that. Just like with where they suggest with the voice cloning scams, where you have a code word that you've worked out with your family and friends to verify anything like that. I know this sounds like an extreme case, and we're getting into movie theme scenario here, but these are the kinds of security steps that people will have to eventually adopt. But speaking to that, the basic security that all of those security professionals have been talking about online for years still adheres. Beth mentioned changing voice is my password. Yes, definitely. Make sure that MFA or multi-factor authorization is put onto your accounts. All of those kinds of things. Verify anything that comes in. these are all steps that have been around for years now, and it's just a matter of adoption. Change your passwords, just those kinds of those.
That's a whole nother topic. I'm not sure if you have any opinion on this, Beth or Jyunmi, but they're saying that language models have the capabilities to, what do you call it? Not what's it called when you do an attack? Not basically they can figure out your passwords,
right? Because they can
overwhelm brute force,
brute force attack. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. So that's a whole nother. It's not really scamming as much as it is just blatant, just stealing your password, which I'm not skilled enough to understand whether that's possible, how that's possible, what you need to do to prevent that. But obviously, the more complex, the better. The longer the password. But we'll get off topic there. So we haven't been scammed, none of the three of us currently. Maybe it's because we are a little bit more cognizant. Like my phone, I pretty much don't answer calls I don't know, and my email, I pretty much have filters on for all the spam. Right now, the only ones getting through are salespeople trying to, position themselves as something that they think I would want, which sucks for the true salespeople out there. They're trying to sell a product that I would want, but I unfortunately, they're going to have to try a different method,
Well, that's a good thing to point out. One of the types of AI generated scamming that I was reading up on, I haven't come across any of them myself, it is incredibly easy, quick, and cheap to build a false storefront, right? You can build an e-commerce site like that, costs you a few bucks, and you can create hundreds of them, right? And all of these storefronts can look really legitimate, and they can go through a processing center and all these kinds of things, or look like they're going through a processing center. And they can just imagine if you log in via a different service, that's your email account or your Google account or your Facebook account, right? Sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook.
Wow.
They've captured that. You put in your credit card information, they've captured that. And then that links to, whatever your social media is and all those kinds of things. So you got to be super careful on who you buy from and what you're doing, which sucks for the small business owner, but does require you to spend more time and effort to make sure everything looks good, is verified, and may have a few key things like, trusted things, and you're going through known sites like Shopify or using
that's the problem. I trust the people. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I trust the people. I trust the companies that allow those on the platform. I trust Facebook to vet this particular business. And what's interesting is that is all fakeable. Like I bought two different products off of a TikTok shop that obviously came directly from China, and both of them were so subpar. Like I'm kicking myself for spending either like $20 here and $20 there. I thought, oh, this is a good deal. And they came back and they're like a imitation of a product that is even worse than, imitated Rolex or imitated Callaway golf club or something. It's embarrassing that I actually clicked the button order. And it took like 2 months to get here and all this other stuff. That was, I legitimately got a product, but imagine how easy it would be to, like you just said, create a fake TikTok shop and just sell for a period of time. Yeah, you'll get shut down in a couple months whenever nobody gets their product and they complain. But by then you've made $10,000. The content to make you legitimate looking is getting easier and easier to create. Obviously, there's the various actors that have been around for a while, but you make another good point of scamming could be in the context of e-commerce.
Because product photos can be faked. Voices can be faked.
Yep.
Videos can be faked, right? Websites can be tossed up in like 10 seconds or, let's say it takes 2 minutes, right? But all of the stuff in that can be faked. So if you are a business, or an individual who's listening to this. Also, just to point out, if you're on video, you watched Robert and my minds be blown as Jyunmi was talking about fake stores. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So if your mind is being blown by this thing, we sit in this all the time, and our minds are being blown. So
Well, I got another blown for you, Beth.
Yeah.
Okay, so a friend of mine had a business. It was a online business, and she had paid an influencer to be shown with her product, and that influencer was one of the Kardashians. It wasn't the main one, so I forgot which one it was, but she paid $250,000 to have this person do an Instagram post of her product. Oh my gosh, easily AI generated now. So I could take the best Kardashian, whatever her name is, and put her holding whatever product I'm going to sell, and holy crud. Oh my goodness. AI can do that in a heartbeat. Oh my gosh.
And in terms of influencer scams, Tom Hanks, right, had that happen at sometime in 2023. He was there was video, or at least a print of him, but it must have had his voice, that looked like he was endorsing a particular product. And because he has the platform that he does, he could come out and say, no, this isn't me. And that became news.
Wow.
Right? That's not going to become news in the lower levels of
right.
Celebrity.
Especially if you're going with so let's say you want to hire influencers to talk about your product or give you a link or anything like that. A very effective influencer campaign is to look at the ones that have a few thousand followers, right? Because those are usually really engaged communities. And so and on that level, the news of it doesn't spread for a while. So you could run entire campaigns that are all, targeting these consumers. So, I mean, not to give more ideas out there, but these already exist. So that I want everyone to be assured of that.
There's probably another 100 that we're not smart enough to think of. Like there's really creative criminals out there, and they're already creating the solutions. And that's and not to get off topic, but that's why I don't want the government to start handcuffing AI in the United States. I don't want them to start putting limitations, because what they say about locks, they're for honest people or something. I don't know that. Yeah. So it's kind of like the same thing is if you think that banning something is going to keep the bad actors out, you're so naive. It's funny. So it's like, I kind of want the tech space to be not as regulated, so that we can have actually a counter offensive to these actors,
Well, so I do want to point out, go ahead, Beth.
So your first defense in this context is knowledge, right? You're listening to us, this is possible. The second is to make sure that knowledge is shared among the people that you trust. So have this conversation at dinner. You're talking to your college roommate, mention like, hey, this is possible. I'd love to have a word, right? A safe word or a password or some sort of thing. I will say that if you have something that you're not sure about, and you haven't had that conversation, go ahead and pop in the conversation something that that person would know, right? And ask for a piece of detail that isn't a part of your personal identifying information, right? Like, don't ask where you were born. And like, let your friends know that is going to be a thing, because that's something that I have done with my college friends. Like, I'm not going to remember a password that I've set with everybody, and that's not particularly safe. So I'm just going to ask for random information, and that's why I'm asking.
Well, another thing too is, I'm not worried about being scammed by somebody trying to scam my wife or my daughter, because if they called me, it would come from the caller ID. I would know it'd be their cell phone or something. Where I think they're gonna try, and obviously I would know how my wife talks to me. I know when we greet each other, what we say and how we talk, right? And I would know if something is weird. Hello, Robert. I'm like, that's not how you talk, So I would say that where it would is those distant relatives. Like, I haven't talked to you in a while, but you know what? Well, I'm going through some health issues and I could really use some help or whatever. Some kind of weird. And so that the number is not as recognized, or they're not familiar with the cadence of the conversation or the nuances of the communication that you do with your relative, your cousin, aunt, uncle. And that's where I think there's those people. So it's the distant family is where you'll have to do what Beth's saying, I think.
Jyunmi, you were going to say something.
I also wanted to highlight for everyone is there are developments to combat all of this AI generated deep fakes, cloning, and things like that. And there's development of technologies and organizations that are starting to put watermarks into images and metadata and things that'll help you identify the credibility and source of these AI generated images, voices, all of these kinds of things. And you'll see more and more of that readily released very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that. So there's a little brightening down the line there. So let's.
It's time for Robert's tin hat. We're gonna do a new banner here. Robert's tin hat. So that's inevitably the new version of My Voice is My Passport. As you've seen with the eyeball, what is it that OpenAI came out with? You can go to certain stores and have your scan. And so now this is the real Robert. Not on my watch. I do not want any type of organization, whether it be government or business, creating or storing an identifier of myself. So that to me is a little scary. I don't like that aspect.
My point more specifically was to identify authenticity or source of whatever you're looking at, not necessarily for self-identification, but to help identify what a deep fake is, because it doesn't officially come from the office of X, Y, and Z, or it doesn't come from Tom Hanks's agency or anything like that. So those are the kinds of things that I was highlighting.
Yeah. Right. Which interesting you say that, because sorry, one more thing on Twitter, because I decided to be a paid Twitter user so I could use Grok. Anyway, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it, but I wanted to be verified user, and I had to upload my passport picture in order to make sure that was verified. So that's kind of a level of verification that I think is probably not yet. Maybe AI could replicate that. I don't know. There's too many variables in there that I have to know in order to create the passport stuff. And I was okay doing that because that's already scanned all the time when I travel. So to your point, Jyunmi, that's one method to verify your authenticity to those. So your audience on Twitter knows it is Robert talking, all 10 of my followers.
So what is likely in this situation when the scam starts is it's either going to seem like nothing so that you're not paying a lot of attention to it, or it's going to seem like a really intense emotional thing. So to Robert's point, the fake version of his wife is not going to call up and say, "Hey, baby, I'm at the grocery store," right? The likely thing is that it's going to immediately engage your fight or flight, like, oh God, what's happening, so that your frontal cortex stops being in the conversation, and now you're just having this big emotional response, because in that brain state and that body state, you're very influenceable. So
wow, that's brilliant. That's really good insight, actually.
So be paying attention if something like that occurs. I hope none of your family are in car accidents or big jail situations. And those are the two that I'm coming up with. Maybe I'm sure there are more. But if something like that happens, just stick a post-it in your brain somewhere that you watch this show and that this is a vulnerability in that, and just do a little bit of due diligence. Right. And so that can be like, hey, hang up and I'm going to call you back.
There you go.
Right.
Yep. I mean, I already have that in my head. If anybody calls me from my bank, I don't even trust them. Even if they are coming from my bank, I definitely don't, or Amex or whoever, I do not trust them. Even if they have all my information and they're repeating my address to me, I'm like, you know what? Thank you, but I'll check it out later. I'm busy right now, and then call them back. Yeah, that's a good point. So I want to do what Brian never does: end on time. Just kidding.
So really quickly, thank you, Hunter, for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Hunter.
We always love it when we have audience members showing up.
Yeah, and Susie and Bob and John and Tony and all those other people that are in the chat. Thank you.
Are watching. Yeah.
I know we have people watching. But thank you everybody for watching. Today has been Did You Get Scammed by AI? The AI show. And check us out next week. We have a whole bunch of awesome topics.
And we have an interview podcast that just dropped yesterday. Awesome. Amanda Bickerstaff, great interview. Go listen.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I love that graphic.